This is Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance in Sacramento today, joined by Reggie Jones-Sawyer, member of the California State Assembly. I just learned, sir, that your uncle was one of the Little Rock Nine.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
For those that aren't familiar with the Little Rock Nine, tell us about them.
My uncle Jefferson Thomas was one of the 9 kids that integrated Central High School in 1957, 60 years ago, which I am 60 as of last Saturday. During that time, the National Guard, actually one of the first airborne sent by Eisenhower, went down to ensure that those kids could go to school safely. And in turn, after they went to school the first year and they had their first African-American graduate, the state of Arkansas, under Governor Faubus, closed the schools down so they wouldn't allow any more African-American kids to go to school.
I went to law school with Governor Faubus's granddaughter, which is kind of an interesting connection. And she didn't like to talk about it much, which I can understand. What's so remarkable about reflecting on the Little Rock Nine is we are faced today with kind of the flip situation. Look, the new administration is just getting its feet wet, so we don't know what's going to happen. But what we do know is that during the campaign, Mr. Trump indicated that he wished to have DACA revoked. DACA, the program whereby children brought here under the age of 15, now that they're adults under 30, can stay. Many of them are in school. The UC system, the CSU system, community colleges, they don't want to participate with immigration raids. We have LAUSD in a panic. Talk me through this.
You can see it's a paradigm shift for me. In some ways, I'm in the twilight zone. I mean, I grew up where the federal government protected young African-American kids to ensure that they went to school.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Connecticut and here in Los Angeles. And now, it's completely flipped. In fact, being on the select committee for the confirmation of Javier Becerra,
I want to talk about that.
I'm sitting here talking to him about how the state of California can defend itself from a national government that may be hostile to all the things that we want to do.
And what's interesting about reflecting is that after President Eisenhower sent the feds in the 60s, you had President Johnson telling a lot of these southern states, if you don't desegregate, we're going to withhold federal funds from your districts. Well, Mr. Trump has indicated that if you schools, you cities don't cooperate with our immigration policy, we're going to withhold federal funds. And arguably, he can do that.
Well, that's why it's so important to get Javier Becerra in as Attorney General. That's why it was so important for both the Assembly and the State Senate to hire former Attorney General Eric Holder to protect our rights here in California. We're in a weird position where we're going to argue states' rights, which was used to keep schools segregated in the South in the 50s and the 60s and part of the 70s. So
but let's play it out. Yeah, let's play it out because a lot of Democrats during the Obama years were very angry at Texas because Texas acted as a foil against Obama federal initiatives, filing lawsuit after lawsuit, dealing with the Affordable Care Act, dealing with immigration issues. And now California is taking that role. I mean, are we acting in a hypocritical fashion?
No. I mean, we've enacted some very progressive laws. What is it? Immigration, civil rights, justice rights, housing, environmental, climate change, even the gun violence things that I've been working on. The first words out of the president-elect's mouth was...
He's now president, but yes.
Well, I'll wait till Friday. So out of his mouth was they're having reciprocal gun rights. And we've done a plethora of gun violence laws. So one of them is open carry. So he's looking at having open carry in Texas, having a federal law so you can open carry in California. Well, that's not California. That's not what we do. And so we're really concerned about it, and even with Stand Your Ground, which has caused some deaths for quite a few African Americans in Florida. We don't want reciprocal here in California, those kind of rights. And so we know what's best for California because Californians have told us what they wanted, and we've enacted it.
Let's talk about Mr. Becerra and Mr. Holder. When Governor Brown announced that he was tapping U.S. Congressman Javier Becerra to take the Attorney General seat when Kamala Harris was successful at the U.S. Senate, most sides saw that as a wise move, a strategic move. When the Assembly and the Senate retained Eric Holder, there was a sense that that may have been a bit aggressive. I mean, this was done before even Mr. Trump was inaugurated. How would you respond to those criticisms?
Always remember, Javier Becerra is a brilliant man.
Right.
He's going to be the tip of the spear when it comes to dealing with the federal government. He will be our fighter and warrior.
Right.
But one of the things that's unique about him, he understands Washington. And we're also going to need people like Eric Holder,
right,
who's been in that Washington fight, to understand how we can best combat them. We can't just sit in a cocoon and just say, we're California, we know what's
right,
not only do what's best, but how do you counteract a lot of things? And so we're getting as much ammunition, as many bodies, as many resources as we can to defend the values here in California. And that includes maybe not just those two organizations, the Attorney General and the law firm for Eric Holder. We have to get even more people involved in here to protect California.
I'm wondering though, and I'm just playing it out, you know, a lot of folks felt as if Texas was all about just saying no. Could California take a more conciliatory position, wait to see what happens, as opposed to getting guns, if I can use the cliche, loaded?
So I would challenge anyone to take a look at the hearing we had for the Congressman Becerra. He has openly said he will reach across the aisle. He did that during his confirmation. He met with the Republicans that were on the committee, and he's willing, even after one of the Republicans said, you told me that you would have a beer with me to talk about all these different issues, whether it's Second Amendment, religious rights, and Javier Becerra said, of course he would. Of course he would try to find midway that we can work together.
He was very well liked by both sides in Washington. We know that. He got along with Republicans very well in Washington.
When you look at the pick that the governor made, not only was it the best pick, but quite frankly, Congressman Becerra may have been the only person in California that could have filled that job the best.
Who knew? I mean,
Who knew?
When that was announced, I mean, so many people said, brilliant, but I never thought of that myself.
Right, it was right in front of our eyes.
Right. At the same time, some of the Republicans, some of your friends said, we like Mr. Becerra, obviously qualified, obviously brilliant, a little concerned about his alleged lack of focus on public safety. What's your sense on that?
If you listen to the committee hearings, when we talked about human trafficking, when he talked about how he has 3 daughters, and how emotional he starts to get about how important it is to protect young women here in California from being in that insidious crime. When he talked about racial profiling, how he was racial profiled when he was a young kid, when you can feel the emotion from him about how he wants to work with police agencies to rid that, not foist anything on them, but work with them to ultimately make a better police force. That's the kind of Attorney General that we need.
What would you tell Jefferson Thomas today, Uncle Jefferson Thomas, from the Little Rock Nine, your uncle?
So, you know, I've taken a lot of heat being chair of public safety. I've had individuals and groups threaten to run candidates against me or to have me impeached and said a lot of things. And my staff gets a little worried. And I tell them all the time, you know, my uncle, my grandmother, my grandfather, they're up in heaven right now. And if they knew I backed down from all these issues because I would lose a job when they sacrificed their life, their limb, their property, everything that they had so that I could go to the best schools, I tell them, you don't have to worry about that anymore. I'm here on the job because you guys raised me and I'm here to do the best thing possible.
His name is Reggie Jones-Sawyer. He is a member of the California State Assembly. I'm Brad Pomerance, Local Edition.